Oh, and the gnomes. What are the gnomes doing? So far, nothing. The gnomes are not getting involved at all. Are the gnomes fighting in the colonies against Boyas Carvo? Gnomes are building a navy. They're colonizing like crazy. And they have a couple of very small armies out here in Boyas Carvo. But generally, no. The gnomes are not getting very heavily involved. Which I think is a mistake. Like, you probably want Nomada over here with the gnomes going after Boyas Carvo. Oh, battle. Small country versus Arboran, 70,000 versus 110,000. Arboran with plenty of forces still to throw into the meat grinder. Although, small country does too. Neither side having a particularly good artillery overview, and small country there being sent packing. Unfortunately, the small country's problem here is going to be if they don't have a dedicated artillery corps, which they have got to recruit, then their backline is going to be filled with infantry who do nothing except take morale damage. So they're effectively going to be taking double morale damage for any morale that they inflict. The gnomes are doing nothing! Spell to the G. I like it. And the gnomes were again caught. They're only ever running one away for some reason. And this time Arboran has a very solid artillery backline. Small country doesn't. So here's what small country wants to do. They want to use their own manpower and their own force limit on recruiting artillery. They then attach that artillery to the mercenary companies, and that way those two units should enter battles at the same time and then actually support each other in those battles. And then you get the artillery filling up the backline of the mercenary armies instead of the mercenaries. They're not doing that though. Small country is making some pretty big mistakes in using massed mercenary armies. Meanwhile, Adenica fighting against Conwell, losing the battle for the first time. Their mercenaries completely shattered. No manpower, their main forces mostly shattered. But they do still have quite a lot of manpower in the bank ready to go. Blue Heart, meanwhile, charging bravely in. We have Rubenair fighting against Boyas Carvo for the first time, and Rubenair defeating Boyas Carvo pretty handily and taking Balmire back again. So that's another fort on the borders of Adenica, which they can use to hold their enemies at bay. And their Rubenair forces are probably going to come marching down here to go and relieve the siege that Conwell is currently doing. Out of interest, what region is it that you need to get for that mission to start? This. Luciand and then Cardia. Ah, that's going after Arboran. So that's why Arboran declared that first war. Okay, so here we go. Rubenair coming in. New Lorent, basically. 13,000 artillery on Conwell side against 25, so the formation of Rubenair is a lot better, and they have significantly more forces nearby to reinforce with, and they're also going to have the crazy cavalry buffs. Actually, not crazy, but they're going to have some of the cavalry buffs, and then just manpower. Like, one of the things that Rubenair is really going to have here is manpower, because of the crazy amount of Laurentish development that they can get. 183,000 still outstanding, and they're also going to be earning a lot of money. And now here's the nice thing about this area of Lorent. You are not that reliant on trade. Your production income, your tax income, both very, very healthy. Production in particular because of all the wine. So even if you get blockaded completely, as happened multiple times against me playing as Lorent, I didn't care. Trade's not how I made my money. Trade can be a nice bonus and can give you a nice extra, but you are not reliant on it in the same way as, say, small country is, and getting blockaded for them would be very bad. I'm still not doing anything. Rubenair helping some of the rebel battles, and there are a lot of rebels here for Adenica. Are you in the middle of a crisis? Nope. There are just a lot of rebels. Because you've had to expand out into other territories around you and conquer them, basically. Meanwhile, Corinthar and Hammerholm have been fighting each other. Are any of these your vassals, by any chance? No. Oh, and Adenica is allied to Bjarnrik. Now that's interesting. Although Bjornrik is not in this war. I really like that Rubenair has joined this war on Adenika's side. I think that's going to be a really, really solid alliance. Meanwhile, Boris Carvo's once again marching forth to bravely get butchered. Meanwhile, just noticed the Westmoors have expanded even further. Vatesk is currently trying to get into Gowed, but is Everwolf a Bjornrik vassal? Yeah, they are. So Bjornrik is actually really flipping massive. That's actually how big Bjornrik is. Some of their strength here is actually kind of hidden. Meanwhile, Conwell is still trying to expand. So Conwell, you've been getting involved in a lot of foreign wars. You have a maximum manpower capacity of a whopping 123,000. Which is kind of crazy. Especially as you do not have quantity ideas, that's just natural manpower. And Geberd's here on 2,000 with only 37,000 maximum. I was wondering if Geberd, who are just sitting here drilling, they're not involved in these wars, would be watching Conwell exhausting their forces and then jumping in on Conwell, but it doesn't look like they're doing so yet. Oh, we have another large small country versus Arboran battle. 101,000 against 78,000. We've got some more Arboran forces coming in to reinforce, but we also still have small country forces ready to reinforce. Small country is still inflicting more casualties, but unfortunately Arboran still has that better artillery backline. Like, small country needs to get better about organising that, I think. Although that was a very nice round for them, and Arboran sent packing. So small country looks like they're going to get this siege of Rothcross. Is Vateska a vassal? No, Vateska's still independent. And that's now 2 forts taken. And Bolvatesk. That's a monument. Interesting. Boris Carvo sending a couple of troops here to look on and see if there's anything they can do to relieve the pressure of the small country, but that fort has just fallen. Meanwhile, Adenica looks like they are being retaken by Rubenair, his own allies, while Adenica themselves are sieging down Elnor. Looks like Boris Carvo was considering an attack with their 50,000 against 70,000. They are coming in, 40,000 against 70. There's another 18,000 right here. I think this is a bad move by Boris Carvo. So they're taking a -1 here. Arboran is right next door with some assistance. Small country with only 5,000 artillery. And while Boris Carvo might be able to do a lot of damage here, this is damage that small country can absorb. And they are now doing a lot more damage to Boris Carvo because the front line is dead. And they are now doing 10-1 casualties. And Arboran has decided, you know what? No, I'm not going to support this. And small country wins another great victory. Meanwhile, 2 more forts look like they are getting ready to fall. Small country starting to press forwards towards Arboran itself. Sorry, no, Aramar. Which is a gold-producing city. It's only a level 2 fort. What level forts are we on now? Level 2s are still the maximum. We're very close to level 4s though. So this is about as obsolete that these forts can get versus the amount of artillery kicking around at this stage. Do Small Country have a mage? Oh, they do! Arthur Bardtree of the Adventuring Company is a mage. And that is their their leader, the 666 architectural visionary, strict, powerful mage. That's pretty much your dream ruler right there. That's crazy. And it's a republic, so they've just been re-electing and re-electing and re-electing this guy. Republican tradition's getting a little bit low, but pff, that's almost worth getting a dictatorship over. Although halflings don't have the extra longevity, do they? No, they don't. So it looks like Boiscarvo and Arboran starting to prepare themselves for another attack. 100,000 small country sitting right next to the 60,000 here. There are some separatists starting to rear their heads. Meanwhile, that fort's about to fall. They've just taken this fort back again. And that's the whole of Anbennar. Anbennar is now fully... Siege is lifted. Which means Anbennar can now go and attack people. So we've got Arboran and Boiscarvo getting ready to jump in. 80,000 against 40,000, another 20 about to join. The backline of Small Country, again very poor, but they are getting the plus massive bonuses to mercenary discipline, plus 30% there, and then also the morale of armies and shock damage from the mercenary company themselves. So the mercenaries that they are bringing to bear are very, very strong. And they're getting quite a few military bonuses, even if they are not getting the artillery buffs. Although at the moment, losing 1,000 man apiece on both sides. This is a really big battle going on. Small Country have already sent in all of their troops. Arboran has not. Arboran, however, losing an extra 1,000 man per tick. They do have another 30,000 coming in, so that's going to be 120 versus 120 again. But this time, Arboran is going to have the edge in terms of morale. Unfortunately, the Small Country doesn't have anything else in their tank to send in. Small group of Rubenair moving around back there, but not really getting involved. And the Siege of Aramar has been successfully lifted. And unfortunately, half of their army did not run properly. And that might be a stack wipe of 57,000 men. Maybe not. Although I'm pretty sure that professional street... Oh, why did you retreat there? Okay, there is something really weird going on with the retreat mechanics. That's a stack wipe. Crap, they just lost 50,000. In fact, probably more than 50,000, seeing as those were almost certainly mercenary companies, which he now cannot recruit, because they will be depleted. We've been seeing that happen a lot today. Wonder why. Something to ask the players after the session, I think. Meanwhile, we've got the company of the Allen coming in, ready to take Lone Valley back, make sure that those rebels don't take it. Meanwhile, Elnor's capital has fallen. Anbennar is now moving in to attack Ancardia, currently being played by Aratos. Joined here by the Redglades, who are definitely one of the most proactive AI vassals I've ever had. Redglade's vassal was flipping phenomenal as Lorent. Rubyhold are also not bad, to be fair. But Redglades, they were just always there. They have really big armies, they were just always there. Or if they were just all halflings, it's more like losing 25,000. No, but those were mercenaries. And that's a big blow. Because not only are you losing the mercenaries, you're also losing like the 1,000 ducats per company, hiring cost. And yeah, small country is rich, but in these wars it very often comes down to economics. Boiscarvo having a couple of transport fleets up there. Rubenair coming in with a naval fleet though, 10 heavy ships, 10 transports. Probably... Oh, and the gnomes, the gnomish navy. So it looks like we're starting to see Commander Faceless starting to rattle his saber a little bit. Having spotted the Boiscarvo ships up here, that's going to be a lot of transports they can sink. Here comes Rubenair. The gnomes not getting involved, heading home instead. And there we go, we've got Rubenair coming in, 10 heavies, 12 galleys against 20 transports. This is probably going to lose their entire fleet. Half of them. Good victory there by Rubenair. We've got Elnor appearing somehow on the far end of the small country. But Rubenair still has a good 50,000 troops around and helping out Rubyhold. What is Rubenair's force limit? Because that's also going to be really high. 134 and they have 126 of it met already. And they still have 159,000 manpower in the bank. Like, this is really one of the reasons that Rubenair is, or that region is so strong. It's just the sheer amount of development you can get. Although Rubenair has since dropped to 5th place. Eberthil and Boiscarvo overtaking them. Vern close behind in 6th. Jordland close behind that with a difference of only 7 development in 7th. And then Bjarnrek being about 50 behind in 8th. But Sozjalasat still very much in 1st place. Kovenblad is offering a peace deal. Ashennyand has peaced out. A small Blue Heart company being caught out. Good general though, 4551. Master at Arms. Oh, Van Ra's back at war again. Who are they fighting this time? Oh no. The Gundagari reconquest of Gundagar. Which they've already taken. How did this go so horribly wrong? It's when they picked the fight with the Phoenix Empire. The fight they absolutely should not have picked. Boiscarvo just sent Blue Heart packing, but that's deep in Arboran territory, so I'm not that surprised by this. And then Jordland is also fighting Lepanton and Haraf. Aha, they're finally expanding down here. Jordelian Haraf is definitely growing bigger. And then they're going after Haraf and Lepatone. Making sure that this doesn't fall to... No, Eberthil, although Eberthil also has some pretty big armies present, and they're also going after Haraf. So, dividing this land between them, and this is why I think that Jordland should have gone after Haraf much earlier, and just grab that land. Meanwhile, Chaos has been formed. So, dev cost minus 15, colonist plus 1, Republican tradition plus 0.3, advisor cost and possible advisors, heavy ship combat ability plus 15, monthly autonomy, naval force off of owned coast and marine force limit, goods produced 20%, manufacturing hub of the Elantir, wow. And then land force fire damage plus 20%, with a capstone of global trade power plus 10. Okay, so the Kios, very, very strong. And they've taken naval ideas. I think we're about to see the rise of the next major naval power. Eberthil better be careful, because Eberthil still doesn't have any naval ideas. They're entirely reliant on the national ideas. Now, naval nation plus naval general ideas means that they're going to be a lot stronger. Meanwhile, Adenica beating up Conwell again. Conwell's heavy artillery force just being punched through by the cavalry. And Adenica fighting against Arboran. Rubenair fighting against Arboran. There are some serious battles going on down here. Rubenair being sent packing there. Adenica, I'm guessing these are mercenaries as opposed to the cavalry. They are mostly being smashed up by Arboran, although inflicting some pretty hefty casualties in the meantime. But they do not have the cavalry bonuses in the mercenaries, obviously. Meanwhile, small country forces starting to rally again. Rubenair getting some of their armies together. Gnomes seem to be mostly just prowling the seas there, probably stopping Boiscavo, bringing in more troops. Nomada continues to grow. I just realised he's named this Nomada as in Gnomish Canada. Duh. Using the same naming techniques that I was using in my own Gnomish hierarchy game. Nice. I like it. But we're not really seeing many colonial battles going on here. Nomada down there being occupied. Boiscavo still with a couple of troops around. Kicking around in the south. And Boiscavo now having punched through into the Trolls Bay. And having a very definite border with Wyverns Bay. And if Boiscavo loses too many troops in this war, Vern's just going to come knocking. And Vern currently is out of this war. So Vern did not stay in the war against Boiscavo. Is a small country in the Empire? I think they are. So the Emperor once again failing to protect his subjects. Yep, they are. It's an elector even. He's been such a terrible emperor. Loving the E4 music coming in with the commentary. Good. What's the big circle border thing? That's basically where the elves blew themselves up. It's effectively the centre of a magical nuke. And the magical fallout is now starting to lift, which is why you got people moving in and colonising it again. Before that, you have the so-called Ruinborn, which are like Yordland is Ruinborn, Haraf is Ruinborn, I think. Chaos is Ruinborn. Like, living on the edges, those are the remnants of the elves that blew themselves up. And then the rest of the elves formed a massive fleet and went across the Atlantic and started colonising the human territories, which is why some nations, like Lorent, which are these guys, are half-elves. And in fact, a lot of the nobility of the Empire of Anbennar are half-elven, because elves could do magic, and those who have half-elven blood can also do magic, just not as much. Meanwhile, Covenblad is getting themselves pretty heavily occupied. We've got Marhold joining the fray. Coruvia and Marhold against Nushir, Nurcester and Rosand. So I think that this is probably more Coruvia trying to gobble up some land. We've got Arboran marching into Adenica again. We've got Rubenair up there in the north. Adenica standing back, licking their wounds a little bit. Meanwhile, small country is putting a little bit of pressure here on Arboran's borders. Although they did lose Arca Pirvar. But Rothcross is still theirs. But it does look like they've pretty much chosen Adenica again as the one that they need to focus their efforts against. Meanwhile, how is Boiscavo here? Bjornvor sold this, didn't they? Okay, big desync, so it looks like we're going to have a rehost. I'm going to go ahead and save the game. So that's why the gnomes are staying back here. They're basically trying to stop the transports getting through, and the transports are here trying to heal up. But that also explains why Boiscavo has not been sending more troops to go and assist in this war, because they haven't been able to. Where are the Orc boys at? They're in the centre of the map. So you've got Anbennar, which is what you see on, well, you don't see on the screen, in the middle. Then to the west of that is the Elven Homelands, which is basically the New World. Then to the east of Anbennar are the Spine of the World Mountains, which is where the orcs and the dwarves were. The orcs had a massive uprising, wiped out most of the dwarves, then left the mountains and spilled out into the plains of what is known as Escan, which is the big open area where Adenica is. And then the orc ruler died, all the orcs fragmented, and then the adventurers from Anbennar, the Empire, started to come back and repopulate Escan, which is where the start of Anbennar starts. So you have lots of very small adventuring companies in... Okay, why is this not showing? I think I need to restart the game again. Had this problem before. Otherwise I'd be able to show you the map and say this is where this happened. So you can start either as a dwarven adventurer in the Spine of the World Mountains, which are basically the dwarves that were left in Escan, like Silverforge, trying to repopulate the Spine of the World, or you've got the remnant holds, like Ovdel Kanzad, who just managed to hold out against all the orcs, starting to re-emerge and repopulate. And then you've got the human and halfling adventurers from Anbennar going into Escan and starting to repopulate and fight the orcs again. And then the inheritor kingdoms effectively rising up out of the ashes of Escan. Are the adventuring companies mercenaries? Technically, they're the old school migratory natives. They keep moving around. They're basically one province miners until they settle down and then start to colonize, in which case they get massive bonuses to colonization. And the remnant orcs are effectively the natives of those areas. So you've got the colonizers fighting the natives to take them out. Then you've got the new native mechanics, with the tribal territory being the, like, settled orcs, and those are the ones that are generally trying to re-establish some kind of orcish order and fight against the incursions. It's really hard to explain when I can't see the freaking map. But then a lot of those adventuring companies become the mercenary companies that the likes of Small Country are hiring. So Adenica was the result of a adventuring company settling, forming Adenica, and then you have the other areas in that area like Nushir and Hammerhome. Okay, stream is not picking up this. Give it another minute or two. Because now the game is actually loaded. This is usually when it appears, rather than loading screens. It's not working. Let's flick around and see if that then picks up. Come on, game. You can do it! It does not want to pick the game up. Yeah, that would be the other way of doing it. Well, let me just go and get the details for this game so I can join it. And then I think I'm just going to share the right side of my screen. There we go. In fact, I'm going to need to block it again, so I can join the game itself. That's my backup system. That's actually sharing my desktop as opposed to just the game window. In fact, before I do that, let's just make sure I don't have Slack or anything open. Don't want to accidentally spill any secrets when I'm sharing my actual screen, which is why I hate doing this. No, we should be good. Okay. Remove the capture and set it up again generally works for me. I tried that before. I don't know what it is about EU4, but it just sometimes fails to capture, and it won't capture it again.